Chapter 4. An Epiphany in the Shadows. The night in the guest wing of the estate seemed endless. Gino left shortly before dawn, summoned by an urgent call from his men, leaving Beatrice in a ringing, oppressive silence. The feeling of his hot fingers on her neck still burned, and his words continued to echo in her head, turning the bedroom into a stuffy, invisible cage. Beatrice couldn't sleep. She paced the room, trying to suppress the growing sense of unease. Something about Gino's calm, his flawless gestures, and precisely calculated reactions seemed too perfect, too prepared. She knew that Gino had a private study in this wing, a closed room where even her father's servants were strictly forbidden to enter. Stepping barefoot across the cold parquet floor, Beatrice slipped out into the dark corridor. The study door was heavily locked, but Beatrice had grown up in a house where secrecy was a matter of survival. Using a thin steel hairpin, she triggered the internal mechanism to click. The door gave way. Inside, the air smelled of old leather, dry wormwood, and gun oil. The windows, covered with thick curtains, blocked out the streetlights. Beatrice fumbled for a small table lamp on the desk and turned it on, bathing the space in a dim amber light. In the corner of the study stood a massive safe of dark metal. It was ajar. Gino, leaving in a hurry, hadn't turned the lock dial all the way. Her fingers trembled as she pulled the heavy door toward her. Inside were no wads of cash, no gold bars, no documents for the docks. Inside, there were folders with stapled sheets and stern black ties. Beatrice saw her name on the very first one. Her heart skipped a beat. She pulled out the contents and spread them out on the table. An abyss opened before her, turning the blood in her veins to ice. This wasn't just information. It was a detailed, maddening chronicle of her life over the past 5 years. Photographs, hundreds of shots. Beatrice at her gallery, Beatrice in a cafe, Beatrice sleeping in a car, shots from high rooftops through a long lens, dates, minute by minute, who she met, what she bought, what medications she took during her illness. But the most terrifying of all were the printouts of her phone calls and bank statements. Beatrice frantically flipped through the pages, and the entire illusion of her independent life crumbled before her eyes. Here was a report on her first major contract with the gallery, Gino's signature on the secret financing of an exhibition. Here was the bankruptcy of her main supplier, which cost her her legitimate assets. A footnote in Gino's handwriting: cut off outside income, leave only encrypted contact. And finally, a folder labeled Ezio. It detailed how Gino had leaked information about the Torres clan's port compromises to Ezio, pushing him to betray and break with Beatrice. Her independent escape from her family, her attempts to build a clean business, her disillusionment with people, her current hopelessness. None of this was a coincidence. It was all a chain of careful, ruthless manipulations by one man. Gino didn't just come to her aid. He scorched the earth around her, removed any alternatives, destroyed her connections, and pushed her to the brink so that in her darkest hour, she would reach out to him. Did you find what you were looking for? The voice came from the doorway. Beatrice jumped back from the table, clutching the printed photographs in her hands. Gino stood in the doorway. He had removed his jacket. The sleeves of his white shirt were rolled up to his elbows, and a fresh, worn cut darkened his palm. His gray eyes, in the dim light of the office, looked at her with absolute calm, without a single drop of guilt or embarrassment. You? Beatrice gasped with a wave of horror and rage, her voice breaking into a whisper. You're a monster. You ruined my life. You orchestrated everything from start to finish. Gino slowly crossed the threshold and slammed the door shut behind him. The click of the metal sounded like a gunshot. I didn't ruin your life, Beatrice, he said, taking a step toward her, his shadow casting a shadow over the table, scattered with photographs. I was cleaning it of trash, of weak people, from worthless men like Ezio, from the illusions your father fed you. You followed me. You controlled me like a doll. She threw a stack of photographs at his chest. The pictures fanned out across the floor. You're not a fiancé. You're not a savior. You're a dangerous, deranged stalker. Gino didn't even blink as the papers hit him. He stepped close, grabbing her wrists, just as she tried to strike him in the chest. His grip was titanic, yet gentle. Call me whatever you want, he said quietly, right against her lips. His eyes burned with that same dark, unstoppable fire that took her breath away. Tell me you hate me. Tell me you despise me, but the fact remains, Beatrice. You're here, you came to me yourself. And now the line between your game and my reality is erased forever.